Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Breakthrough Academy. I haven't been here for the last 2 weeks, so I'm excited to be back. It's something about when you're away from something that you do every week that you look forward to.
Breakthrough, it's like salt, you know? You don't think much about it until you don't have it.
No,
you think about it during the week, but you don't realize how much you miss it until you don't have it.
I'm glad to be back. I'm here with Pastor Peter and Jay Lewis. So glad to be back with
everybody.
You guys.
It is so good to be back here, and we are live here from Melbourne, Australia with Breakthrough Academy. This is here at Breakthrough. This is our Bible school that we run here every Friday live from Studio B, and it is such a great idea. The concept is learning to not just dive deeper in the Word, but Pastor Peter teaches us how we can dive deeper into the Word so that we can take the skills we learn here in Academy and take them into our everyday life as we learn more and more about God. So we're very excited. We've been learning about Jesus in this current series. We've been tying into a series we've been doing on Sundays where we've been learning about why Jesus is so awesome. And here in Academy, we've been learning about Jesus. Most specifically for the last 3 weeks? 4 weeks? 3 or 4 weeks. We've been learning what made Jesus sad, mad, and glad. And you know it's a good series because it all rhymes. So, Pastor, why don't you just tell us a bit about what we're going to be learning today?
Yeah, I think, to me, it's you learn about someone, but I don't want to just know about Jesus.
Yeah.
I want to, ultimately I want to find the things that really get him excited.
Yeah.
And there's nothing better than thinking I'm doing something and I'm just doing what, it's going to make Jesus happy. And it's like, and that's one of the things today. I want to look at a couple of scriptures. What made Jesus happy? You know what I mean? And it's like, and we'll look at some things that made him mad as well, because, hey, I want my kids to both understand what makes me happy, but also understand the other boundary. Don't be doing stuff that makes me mad. It's so frustrating, when people, and especially if people do things that they're oblivious to, they're blind to, and they think, oh, this will be fine, but it's not what I want. And it's not, and even opposite, it's what makes Jesus say, that's not what I am. But I love finding out what moves his heart, because we want to please him. We do. I appreciate that everyone is joining us, is watching online. We appreciate you connecting with us, because you've got a hunger to know Jesus.
Yeah, that's good.
And I appreciate the people that connect with us on Breakthrough Academy. It's not I want to learn some facts, or I want to have the 10, points about Jesus that I can put his life in order, and I can say, well, I've learned about Jesus. I know the people that are online and they're connecting with us, and you two guys here, you're not here because you want some intellectual stimulation.
Yeah.
You want something that's going to stir your faith, that's going to build you up and say, you know what, this is going to empower me to better connect with Jesus and do the things that please God. And live like Jesus and do the things that he did. Yeah. We're all besotted with Jesus. That's why we're here. We think he's amazing. But, one of the dangers is sometimes you can be besotted with something and not realize that you are besotted with an image, not with the reality.
Yeah.
In fact, why don't we start there? All right, I was going to start one place. Let's go to Matthew.
While you're finding that, welcome to our regulars, Peggy.
Yes.
Glad you could be here. This is like, I know this is live now, and we can always watch it later. But like what you said before, Pastor, everyone's here because we want to be here.
That's it. I like that.
This could very easily, you could not be here.
That's it.
Let's just be honest. It wouldn't be hard. So we love having everyone here. This place is always welcome. You can be here live with us in studio. You don't have to be on the camera. We have seats in here. So you're always welcome to be here at the church live at 9 a.m. But we love having all of our regulars here. So welcome, everyone.
Exactly. And we love to connect with you guys. So comment below if you're joining us today. Comment below where you're joining us from. We love to be able to chat with you. As we say, we can see the chat live right behind our camera here, right behind the screen. So we absolutely love it. Comment below if you have questions, if you have thoughts, if you have a Bible verse that's been strong on your heart. If God stirs something in your heart that you want to share with people. We love it. Some of the best conversations we've ever had here on Academy, and stirred not through the notes or what was planned to be said, but stirred through things that people bring up in the comments and questions that are asked, or thoughts that are shared, or stories that are shared, and bring that stuff. We love to be able to connect with you guys as much as we can.
I think that's true. Often I think, this is what I'm going to do. Even now, I had a scripture. I'll start there. And as we're talking, and I believe that's part of, as you guys are engaging, as we're connecting, the Holy Spirit says, you know what, this is something right for now.
Yeah.
This is how to do it. And I really appreciate that we can interact, and it's not just, I've got a set teaching. It's being changed because of your questions and your hunger and your position and what you're desiring. And so I want to look at, we're going to start with Matthew 23, because just with that concept that sometimes you can be in love with something, or you think that, I'm amazed by it, but you're amazed by something historical that you haven't brought into the now. And Jesus can be a little bit like that.
Yeah.
Jesus, the historical Jesus, is a lot safer than the Jesus that's now.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay? Jesus that I see in the scriptures, but not just what I see, but Jesus that I imagine through what I've seen in the scriptures is a little bit safer than the Jesus now. And so I want to look at Matthew 23. Jesus does this teaching. It's when I say teaching, he was really speaking to the scribes and Pharisees. And if you look at the heading of this passage, it's called the 7 woes to the scribes and Pharisees. So it gives you a bit of a feeling what's coming up.
Yeah.
And I was just looking up, and I think the first woe is in verse 13. And I was just looking at one of the other translations, because New Living Translation. What sorrows awaits you? So when it says, sometimes woe to you, that's not really a language that we use today. Woe to you. I use it, but I don't use. I
use it more sarcastically, or I use it as a throwback phrase, not actually.
Just for some of us that might not maybe understand, is that saying be careful? Or
no. Woe is sadness.
Oh, sadness.
Okay, yeah. So
I said that because that was me.
Yeah.
A little hint.
No, that's actually a really good point, because it's not. It's actually, what does that mean? Like there's woe, like hold a horse, whoa. But this is woe, W-O-E, and it's not a common phrase. We sometimes only use it when sort of quoting old, woe is me, like
it's sort of like
Shakespearean.
It's like someone who's like upset or sort of depressed, but probably the way I would use it is that very theatrical, over the top, like, woe is me, my life is falling apart sort of thing.
Yeah, it's sort of a dramatic,
everything
over the top thing.
Everything
but in reality, it's just a word that, and the New Living Translation, what sorrow awaits you? And Message Bible, I've had it with you. Passion Translation, great sorrow awaits you, religious scholars. Good News Bible, how terrible for you. So again, we got the paraphrase go a little bit sideways to try and give you the meaning. When you go more everyone else is just but woe to you, which is sort of, okay, that's an example of, we have a good English word, which reflects the Greek word very well, but the English word isn't necessarily one that's in common usage, and therefore, even if it's a good English word, if someone like Josh, I'm not actually doing, I agree with that, because it's not a word that is necessarily common,
and we don't use it. I'd never use it outside of
and there's a good chance if people haven't heard of the Bible, they might not have heard this word used. It could be in things like I said, like Shakespearean plays, and I think of the dramatic and sort of a bit of Old English. So it's an example. So all our more word for word translations have put the word woe in because it's a good translation. But the paraphrasers have said that doesn't really work because people don't know the English word very well. Or or if you do, and this is one of the other problems, I do, but I don't really, it doesn't hit me because I sort of get it.
And there's also,
but it doesn't actually make a emotional connection with me because I don't really understand it in terms of my life.
It could be like a surface level thing, but if you understand the word, it has a more deeper impact.
And I think that's why when I see the phrase "what sorrow," it's okay, it gives them
one of the problems as well you come across, which this wouldn't have been a thing initially they would have faced when they were writing it necessarily, depending on what year these Bibles are written, but is that nowadays the phrase, as I sort of pointed to before with woe is me, I would sort of use it sarcastically now. It's sort of like it's almost
mocking
it's almost a mocking. It's a bit like I would use it in terms like if someone I stubbed my toe. Oh. And they come in dragging their foot and I stubbed my toe woe is you, a bit of get up you wuss, and you sort of now it's a very sarcastic term in today's society, particularly in Australia. I don't know what it'd be like around the world, but if I was to use it, if I told you woe is your life, just a quick warning, I probably don't actually mean I'm really sorry for you. I'm probably meaning a bit more of like, get up, you fool, what are you doing? And it's like, but the issue is, I read him say, there's like, woe is you.
And you've got no real context for it.
Woe is you. I sort of think Jesus is being a bit like, oh, yeah, like, get over yourself. But when he actually realizes, like, this, he's saying, like, he actually means a great sorrow is ahead. But I would, if I read that and I read woe is you, I would instinctively read it as Jesus making fun of him, and he doesn't actually think it's a big thing.
Yeah.
And that's the complete opposite of what is actually being meant. So an interesting way as words are, developed, that meaning changes.
So let's just break it down for us, okay? And a little bit, one of the problems too is I read this and go, glad I'm not a Pharisee, because this is a brutal chapter. This is a brutal teaching that Jesus has, and this is one of the ones where sometimes people say, oh, Jesus is just so full of love. Yeah, well,
he didn't shy away.
No, chapter 23 is pretty brutal, and he said that's all right because it was against them Pharisees, them scribes. And we don't, and again, it can be like, I don't really understand who Pharisees are or what scribes are. What is a scribe? I don't know. What is the job of a scribe? Who is a scribe? We don't have scribes today. And so,
what is a scribe?
Yeah, what is a scribe? And so why is Jesus upset against them? And so it's the whole thing becomes a little bit removed from me. So 7 woes. I don't really understand that. Scribes, don't understand them. Pharisees, I know them that they're the bad ones that,
But again, that's only if you read the Bible, you know that Pharisees are bad.
Yeah. So this whole chapter can be a little bit like, whoa, it's sort of observing for out here. But what I want us to do is to look at it from the point of view, hang on a sec, Jesus was really upset with these people, and he said 7 woes. In other words, this is not going to end. This is not going to end well with you.
You're in for destruction, sort of thing.
Well, this is bad for you guys. This is not good, not healthy, not going in a good place. And say, okay, well, maybe I could stop and say, what were the 7 things that Jesus said? If these things are going to take you to a dark place.
Yeah.
These things are going to lead you away from God, away from this is I've come here to give you life and to teach you things. You guys are going down a very different path, and it's not going to end well. The seven pathways that do not end well, they're disastrous. Don't go down this way. Don't do these things. And it's particularly aimed at a group of people called the Pharisees and scribes who were heading down that path. And so what it can tell me is what really upset him. He didn't sort of say, well, just go your way. He's 7 particular things that said, these things are really against you. So I want to learn from these things because there's a chance that if I'm not careful, some of the things, the attitudes that they're showing, I can be slipping into.
Yeah.
And that, I don't want to do that. This is really on the wrong path. And it's just sort of a one way of learning from Jesus. The things that really upset him helps me to understand. I don't want to go anywhere near that. And if I sort of go the opposite, I think I'm going to do the right.
If you go towards you don't be worried about not doing those things, but go towards the things that he loves. Yeah. And if you're going that way, you're not you're not going the other way.
So you can look at these 7 things and say, well, what's the opposite of it?
Yeah.
Okay, and I'd like us to do that. I'd like to build a list of the 7 opposites to the 7 woes. Good. And you say, is Jesus ever given 7 things where it's not 7 woes? Well, actually did in the teaching in the Beatitudes. He says, blessed are those, blessed are those, blessed are... And he's sort of, there is the opposite. So you can go back to the Sermon on the Mount and study the things that he speaks. This sort of person is going to, blessed are the meek, for those who inherit the earth.
Blessed are the poor in spirit, blessed are the merciful.
Yeah, all those sorts of... They're attitudes that he said they're good. But we're going to look here and sort of and get at some of our own 7 good things based out of this. But it starts off with, so Jesus said to the crowds and to his disciples. So it's giving a bit of, I'm teaching everybody, and also particularly the disciples are listening and taking attention. And he said, the experts in the law and the Pharisees sit on Moses' seat. So this gives you an understanding. When we talk about scribes, he's given this other phrase here, experts in the law. The scribes were those their job was to interpret and write down the things of the Old Testament, that to be experts in the law. And when we say law, you've got to understand this is not thinking like today. Someone who's an expert in the law, solicitor, a barrister, a lawyer.
Yeah.
That's our legal rules. Over there, the law would be religious law, and particularly the laws as come through Moses. And then all the laws that sort of built out of that too, because they sort of built upon them and had their own versions of the law and interpretations of the law. Sometimes the law would say, don't, for instance, an example, don't, you must tithe. Or they say, well, what do we tithe on? If I do I have to tithe on this, do I have to tithe on that? And they sort of built rules and regulations around the laws.
The best explanation Dad ever gave me for things like for the Pharisees and the scribes and stuff was we have a law that's like when you drive you must have your seatbelt on. Okay, that's our law. They would take it to if that's in the law, do we need to? Do I need to put on as soon as I sit down in the seat in the car? Does the door have to be open or can the door be shut? Can the key be in the ignition? Can the key be turned on? Then there'd be none of the, driving with your knees while you're eating a bowl of cereal and putting your seatbelt on 5 minutes down the road to work. It's like they would go to that level of not just
the detail
of exactly when.
Yeah. So the scribes, they made it their life to both understand and to bring the interpretation of the law to the people around them. And so you think, well, that must be great because the law is good. Jesus said it. The law did not come from Pharisees. The law came from God, given to Moses. Good. It was a good thing. It helped Israel. It had a purpose and a plan. And Paul speaks about that. And it's a good thing. Nothing wrong with the law. But they took the law into their own hands and twisted it into something. And this is what's happened here. You might be surprised at this. It'll probably shock some of you. Some people can take something which is good, like the Bible, like a concept like church, a concept like preaching, and they can twist it for through their own filter of their own selfishness and their own greed or their own motives, and they can misuse it. So not everybody who says they're a Bible teacher is doing the right thing. Because you can take the Bible and use it like a club. You can take the Bible and use it like a weapon just to hurt people and to.
You can use it as a gotcha.
Yeah, you can use the Bible just as something to build you up and to serve your purposes. So that's what they did. They took the law, which was good, but then they misused it, and in a way that became.
It's really interesting. Like they took the extremities of it, added their own things, did that perfectly. While actually, not doing
the essence of it.
The essence of it.
Josh, it's almost like you've read this passage.
I probably have.
He probably has at some point, but it's like
we don't.
You probably, but I'm saying that you're saying, that's actually one of the things that Jesus sort of targets in this. So well done. You've already picked up.
It's not because I didn't know. I would have known what woe is otherwise.
Yeah. So it says the experts in the law and the Pharisees sit on Moses' seat. He said, therefore, now this is. Let's go back here. The experts in the law and the Pharisees sit on Moses' seat. What does that mean? Some people think either the physical seat, a literal seat in the temple. It actually, what it means is that they sit in the position of authority
that Moses had.
Yeah.
Because they are teaching the laws that Moses gave. So they come to you with the authority of Moses. And so let's take a Bible teacher that we're making a bit of fun of. Someone who's not doing things right, but if they're teaching the Bible, well, you know what? The Bible is still right.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Okay, that they're not doing it right, but if they're speaking from the Bible, then the Bible is okay. And listen to what Jesus says.
Was it Paul that said it was in one of Paul's letters? I reckon one of his the last letters of his in the Bible. I think it's one. It has 4 chapters. I don't know which one it is, but where he says where he talks about, he's like, people getting all angry at each other. It's like, they're saying this, they're speaking the Bible, but are they doing it right? It's like, well, first of all, let's just be grateful. They're spreading the Bible. He's like, if nothing else, they're spreading the good news. It's like,
there was the book of Philippians when he was in jail, and people were using their freedom because they weren't in jail, and they're sharing the gospel as a weapon against Paul. And he's like, I'm sort of happy the gospel gets shared. Anyway.
The gospel gets shared. It's like, I always say it's a good base note of there's a bit of positive in anything,
The gospel, at least the gospel's going out. And so Jesus says about these people, pay attention to what they tell you and do it. Because they're actually teaching from the law of Moses. But do not do what they do. For they do not practice what they teach. In other words, they're sharing good things from the Bible. And you need to follow them because that's accurate. But don't look to them because they're making a hash of it. They're not actually following it themselves. And there's a word for people that say one thing but do another.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
a hypocrite. All right,
Yeah.
they are hypocritical. In other words, they act as if they're perfect in it, but they've got no intention and no desire to do this. So what do? They tie up heavy loads, hard to carry, put them on men's shoulders, but they themselves are not even willing to lift a finger to move them. In other words, they're saying, I will build up this. This is what you need to do, but me, I'm exempt.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
have
good.
to do this. Always
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, always be wary of giving yourself some leeway that that others don't have.
Yeah, that's
All
good.
right, I know.
Your intentions.
Well, it just what would be an example? Because it's not something I'm sort of thinking. Oh, I do this all the time. I don't. Hopefully, I'm not doing it. But sometimes if I've been serving God really hard and ministering and doing a lot of preaching and stuff like that, then it's like, I can't be bothered praying, or it sounds terrible, but you might say, but I sort of give myself a get out of jail card because
I've just ministered.
I'm a preacher. I'm a minister. I can afford to show a bit of slackness here. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
It does not work like that. You can't say, well, listen, because of the God's using me here and God's blessing me by ministering through me here.
Yeah.
That gives me a freedom not
That's
to
good.
actually follow some of the basics. I get a little bit more leeway because of the pressures I'm under. If anyone knew that the pressures of running a ministry, the pressures of doing this, well, I need to have a little bit of an outlet here. I need to have a little bit more freedom here because I'm not under the pressures of a normal person.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm just saying, as soon as you get that mindset where you have a special relationship that gives you special permissions that allows you to be a little bit looser with some of the things that God's doing, you're in this era. This is not how this works. In fact, I think it goes the opposite way. And in the book of James, it says, you who are teachers, in fact, let's just go there because in the book of James, where do the conflicts and where do quarrels come for you? Let me just actually look it up.
Go old school for a minute.
Go old school. Chapter 3, that'll be right. Not many of you should become teachers, my brothers and sisters, because you know that we will be judged more strictly.
Yeah, okay.
All right? Because when you become a teacher and when you start standing in the place where you are ministering to others and instructing others, that does not give you license to be a little bit slack in your own life.
Yeah.
Because of all the pressure and people calling me teacher and I do all this study and I do all this preparation, I do this ministry. I deserve, I can be sort of, I know I tell them that, but in my own life I can be a little bit more relaxed.
Yeah.
Doesn't work like that. It's actually the opposite. Because we will be judged more strictly. If you're going to come into a place of teaching the Word of God, then you elevate the level that you need to be holding to it. It becomes more important that you hold to it. You can never ever get in the position where you suddenly giving yourself a bit of leeway and actually sort of say, no, actually I can't afford to do things that an average person, an average Christian can do. Yeah. And that's true in my life, and that's true in anyone who's ministering, that I have to be more wary and more careful and show more care to be keeping my heart right, showing more discipline, because hey, if I want the privilege and if I want the benefit of being able to stand here or sit here and minister and share and have my life influence others, then it's got to come out of a life of being of integrity and righteousness before God. Yeah. We haven't mentioned it up to this point, but this week we received some some sad news in one sense, that our apostle of Heritage of Faith and our personal man of God, Brother Jerry Savelle, Dr. Savelle, passed away. He entered into his reward. It's sad for us, and it's sad for all those left behind that we've got to sort of process not having him here on earth, and the great blessing is and has been to us. But he's entered into the thing he's been passionate for, loved, and he's being reunited with some of the the greats, Oral Roberts, and we'll think of the mentors and the people that
Yeah,
we
that's
got.
good.
And
Heaven's
others.
having a party.
Yeah, and so we want to celebrate that he has stepped into eternity, into his reward, a powerful reward. But I think of this, when I think of Dr. Savelle, and I got to know him a little bit personally, do you know what I mean? We're out, you see a man behind the pulpit, we got to see him away from the pulpit and just in normal sort of life at times. And I would have to say there was no separation. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was no, he's a good man behind the pulpit, but he's not such a good man. It's exact opposite.
Yeah,
He was
that's good.
That's good.
solid through and through. And that is one of the great examples to me of what a man of God is. I look at this man and I say, he was passionate when he didn't have to be passionate.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He was good when he didn't have to be good, when he was away from the cameras and when he was away from things. And there was a story that I always remember, and it always challenges me how he was, this is many years ago, and he's already in ministry, but he had a bit of downtime, a bit of me time. And, and everyone loves those times. When you sort of, I don't have any responsibilities at the moment, I can sit, and for him, he was going to sit down, he was going to watch a movie, and I think it was a John Wayne movie, a Western. That sounds like a good downtime sort of thing to do. I'm going to just watch an old-fashioned John Wayne Western, where the good guys win and the bad guys get whooped. And, and just enjoy. And he's sitting and he's just starting it, and it's just like, this is his downtime. This is his me time. Listen, he worked hard in the gospel, like Paul. I remember Paul actually says in Book of Corinthians, "I worked harder than you all." You know what I mean? And that's not worked in the flesh. That just means they really did, and he did. He took his gift so seriously, and he used it, and he ministered. And so to have downtime was precious. That's what I thought. This is my downtime. And he said, as he was sitting there, this phrase came to him out of his spirit: "The devil can't steal your joy, you can't keep your goods." Now we all know that as a powerful sermon. And he's like, "Oh, that's really interesting." Start to watch the movie, and it's said it again out of his spirit, and he's suddenly like, "Lord, you're not interested in the movie, are you?" You know what I mean? And you know what happened? Movie off. What are you saying, Lord?
Yeah.
Wow, that's good. That's so powerful.
That's in the secret, in the quiet. No
one ever would have known.
No one looking.
No.
No one.
No, yeah, that's that. But I love that attitude. God, you're not into the movie at the moment. You're wanting to speak to me, and you're wanting to give me. And it's like, well, movie off. This is my passion. This is what I do.
That's so good.
That's a challenge to me. It's like, I never switch the God part off.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Do you know what I mean? That's my passion. That's what I am. And you know what? The world. I don't think he would have ever known. That's probably one of the most powerful sermons that's gone around the world. It's helped so many people to stay free and to push the devil back and not allow him to get in and steal the things that he has by this being able to stay in joy. And by being able to stay in joy, they have blocked what the enemy has wanted to do. How many marriages have been saved? How many jobs have been saved? How many people are still in health and living? How many people are still alive because they took hold of this principle? Yes. How many people have seen provision for them and their family because they held on to this? How many churches are still in existence because the pastor got hold of this and did not allow the devil to steal what he was trying to do? You know what I mean? Because when God spoke something to him, he is like, "Oh, my downtime," and God, he said, "Well,"
and that was the most important thing to him.
Yeah, it was.
So anything else would be sort of like sacrificed or let go in the moment of.
He never shared that in the way that "woe is me." Woe is me.
Yeah.
He never shared that in a way that like, "You've got to feel sorry for me. I never get to watch John Wayne." He more said it in the way like, God gave me something so precious that day. Yeah. I was given the opportunity at something that was so precious.
Yeah, that's good.
And so I just want to honor him as a man who lived the right way in this.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He was not someone who put pressures on someone else and then he had an easier life. He in fact held himself to the highest standard. And then let others and then minister out of that. So I just want to honour Dr. Savelle as a man of great integrity who's had great impact on us because of that life that served you. And that's to stir me up. That hunger. The hunger he had for God and the things of God. So let's go back to Matthew 23. They do all their deeds to be seen by people, for they make their phylacteries wide and their tassels long. Again, thanks to a literal translation, a more word-for-word translation. No one is aware, except if you've got Jewish heritage or something like that, or what a phylactery is, and their tassels long.
What is it?
Okay. Well, all you have to do is say, okay, and this is, I actually appreciate what Jay said. When I'm teaching these things, I will not just say, let you learn from my great knowledge. I'll actually show you how I learn.
Yeah, awesome.
So you can find, when you face other situations, you're not reliant on me. You can say, what do I do? So, okay, I'm asking you guys a question. You read this. What
Google.
do you do? No. Oh, Google is one. You can
I just Google what it is.
Well, no, think Bible. If they're putting a word in here the same as woe, this is a word-for-word translation, New English translation, and it's using a word that you're not familiar with. So it's probably an accurate translation, but it's using a level of English or understanding that you probably don't have. So lean in. I'm going to guess that if you lean into a more paraphrased translation, they will do the work for you. Right? If you're reading something that seems distant, go into a paraphrase, because they're more likely to
add context.
To bridge that gap for you. Okay, there's a gap here of culture. Okay, it's a cultural thing that Jews knew what a phylactery was. It was part of their culture, but it's separate to you. It's not part of our modern culture. So I'll switch to a translation that will make that bridge for me. Now, in making that bridge, I'm going to lose what was said in the Greek a little bit more accurately, because I'm going to get a translation that is not what in the Greek. In the Greek, it didn't describe it. In the Greek, it would have just used the technical term. All right, but I'm going to sacrifice a bit of word-for-word accuracy with the fact that it makes no help to me if I don't know what a phylactery is, and I'm not sure what a tassel's got to do with anything. And again, tassel is not actually a...
I don't know what that is either.
Yeah, sorry?
I don't know what that is either.
And that's not a cultural thing. That's a dressmaker's term or something. People. Okay, anyone here who knows what a tassel is? It's probably someone who's familiar with clothing and dresses and things like that. So again, it's a phrase that is not familiar with everybody. So all I have to do is I switch over to all the translations. Phylacteries.
Tefillin?
They're tefillin broad and they're
What?
Okay, don't worry about this. This is the complete Jewish Bible. They're using the Hebrew terms for these things.
That's not helping me.
What is it? They're tefillin broad and they're...
What's that, Jay?
Tzitzit.
Okay.
I'm thinking is like...
Is something silent?
What is it? Tziki is the...
Do Jews have silent letters?
Tzatziki, so Tzatziki,
Sauce.
Let's leave it.
Alright, that's
okay.
I'm very interested now.
Living Bible. Okay, let's try Living Bible. Everything they do is done for show. They act holy by wearing on their arms little prayer boxes with scripture verses inside.
Okay.
There you go.
So guess what a phylactery is?
A box
A
with
little
box.
Yeah, a little box,
little prayer box
with scriptures verses inside. All right, and lengthening the memorial fringes of their robes. The fringes of their robes have special meaning. They would make them nice and they have these special boxes. Okay, so
what does the message say?
Message: their lives are perpetual fashion shows, embroidered prayer shawls one day and flowery prayers the next. Now, he's taking the meaning and just dumping the whole cultural thing.
Dumping all the clothing out.
Because even if it's like, why would they put those prayer boxes on it? The concept is...
okay.
They're making themselves look really fancy. Passion... So Message Bible goes so far that I'm like, I'm sort of losing... It's going... Is it too far? Everything they do is done for show and to be noticed by others. They want to be seen as holy, so they wear oversized prayer boxes on their arms and foreheads with scriptures inside, and wear extra long tassels on their outer garments. And you could say, okay, really, why would they be wearing those scriptures and things like that? And you can go back and find in the book of Deuteronomy where it says, God says, bind on your forehead and on your hand the word of God. So they took it literally.
Yeah.
All right.
It's unlike them.
Good old, it's unlike them to take something which God says, I want you to put these scriptures in your head and right here. Right hand means handy, right where you're going to use it, on your head, right where you're thinking about it. And so they took that literally little box and they put scriptures in it and they'd bind it on. And of course the Pharisees that I make my box big so everyone can see.
Yeah.
How
many scriptures I'm holding on to.
Look at it. Wow, you're a man of God. Look at your phylacteries.
Yeah.
And tassels, represented, the things of God, and they're like, okay. So Jesus is like, you're overemphasizing these things to try and impress others. All right. So
putting on a show.
So there you go. Without Google, just by going into other Bible translations.
Okay.
Also, then you can, Google it, and you'll probably find a few things.
You might be able to find a photo or something like that. They can give more.
Yeah. Well, let's. Yeah. So, do you want to have a look at a photo of a factory?
I was very interested. I'm still cannot understand what that would look like.
Yeah. So and now. Now we're going to work out if I remember how to spell it.
I'm very impressed.
Well, I would start by saying Jewish.
A few congratulations to our pastor in the chat for that.
All right, okay. There's a man with a phylactery on his head.
Okay.
Right.
Nice.
I don't know whether you can,
I don't think that would have the same effect if we were to do that.
Yeah.
Like
a unicorn.
May have been praised for it. I don't know, but
okay. Here's one being
a box unicorn.
Yeah, I was gonna say
here's a phylactery wrapped around on the arm,
Okay,
and there's one on the head.
I thought it would be like a scroll.
Two small leather boxes contain verses from the first books of the Bible. Boxes attached to leather straps, one tied the arm, other than the head. Worn as a reminder of God and to follow Jewish law daily, removed at conclusion of morning prayer services. So this is actually something that is current for. It's called tefillin. Do you remember that Hebrew word?
Yeah.
Tefillin in the Jewish.
Yeah.
So that's
and the source.
tefillin in Hebrew are worn by observant Jewish men each weekday morning during prayer. I don't think that this is talking about.
In the past, this is what's
past.
still done.
This is about observant Jewish men today.
Current,
Mm.
Okay, so there you go. So it's so to a Jewish person, they recognise straight away, and it's like you've got you put giant phylacteries on.
Yeah, so you can show
just how.
But it's interesting suddenly the context you have of what Jesus is saying, and immediately you can start to understand why he's saying it.
Yeah.
So they do all their deeds to be seen by people. Now, can I say, now you can read a more word-for-word translation because the word phylactery now has meaning something to you.
Yeah.
So you can actually get it's actually more accurate for you
Yeah.
and helpful because it's bridged the gap. Now this is a better translation rather than Jesus didn't give the explanation. He wasn't saying, I'll explain to you what a phylactery is. They all knew. Yeah. So this is more how it would sound. He said they do all their deeds to be seen by people. They make their phylacteries wide and their tassels long. They love the place of honor at banquets and the best seats in the synagogues. They love the place of honor at banquets and the best seats in the synagogues, and elaborate greetings in the marketplaces, and have people call them, "Hi, Rabbi." Oh, shucks. Do you get the fact? And they love all these things.
Yeah.
They actually purposely emphasize things so that people will notice.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Have you ever done something in the background and people didn't notice, and you're just so annoyed?
Closing the gate.
We closed the church gate in the rain one day.
It was one Sunday, me and Josh, we weren't the last to leave, but one of the last to leave church, and we were going out, and it started to rain. And if you've ever been a breakthrough in the building, you know there's two main gates. There's the gates to the car park, and then there's the gates to the entrance area. So normally the entrance gates are closed a bit early while people were leaving the car park. Me and Josh went out, we were getting ready to go, and it was raining.
We were about to go.
And we noticed the gates were gates leaving. We were about to get in the car, we were like, no, let's do the right thing. and we're gonna go close the main gates. So someone else doesn't have to go out in the rain and close, not the car park gates, but we can close the.
So someone's job would have been
someone's job is to come and close
we're
the
going to
gate.
close the gates for them.
Big metal gates. We're gonna go close these gates. So we're gonna we each pick
Oh.
one up and we drag them around, and they can be heavy and they scrape and they're noisy as. And so you carry them and we lock the gate.
And it's in the rain.
And it's in the rain.
And we got wet.
Had you mentioned that it was raining?
It was in the.
It was pouring.
It was pouring.
I think it was like more than what it was.
Yeah, Noah was building an ark. Let's put it up. There was but it was raining, and we're gonna do the right thing. We did it, and we're gonna do, and then we realized no one saw us. It was really annoying, so no one mentioned it. So we realized we had to mention it at lunch so everyone could give us.
We
made a decision.
I've already got a few heavenly rewards. I just want this earthly reward now.
We decided we've got enough heavenly rewards built up. We'll
get more later.
We can take an earthly one
I want this one now.
I want this one now.
We cashed out a bit early.
We cashed out very early.
10 minutes later at lunch.
Well, can I say, you made your shutting of the gates loud.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
woe is us.
Look how I shut the gates, everybody. I'm such a holy person.
It was raining, by the way, if we didn't mention it already as well.
Yeah.
It was
we have to dry ourselves off after.
Yes, it was
Do we
like
have to change our clothes?
I think so.
Or do we just make that up?
I think we'll do this. Do the whole
So,
We were Pharisees.
that attitude, which just really needs what you're doing to get recognition and feeds on it, but acts as if it's nothing. Like I'm just walking around looking holy. That got up Jesus' nose.
Yeah.
All right. So we let's come back to.
We were joking.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's come back to the point of what we're doing this to learn from. Jesus was not impressed with this.
Yeah.
And when I say that, that's sarcastic. That's Jesus was upset with this.
Call it out.
Yeah, and he did not like their attitude, the way they went around trying to do seemingly very spiritual things so that other people would see them and give them some sort of honor, and they would love that sense. And it said, so they would love the place of honor at banquets and the best seats in the synagogues and elaborate greetings in marketplaces, have people call them rabbi. That's what they love. Now, every now and again, I will be given a position of honor because of my role here, as a pastor, or pastor here. I've just made you you can go first. I'm always very grateful, and I certainly don't want to say, don't make it embarrassing for people.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's the Lord says, those who are last will be first. There's that sometimes you take a position and the Lord elevates you, and the Lord gives you favor.
Yeah.
And the Lord gives you, and that's part of His goodness and His grace and His favor, and you get positions.
And there's also a point where it's like we as the church are called to that. All throughout Paul's writings and stuff, he talks about honor guest ministers, honor your pastors, honor your mother and father. We're called to show that honor. So you receive it because it's what. Yeah, they're doing the right thing, sort of thing.
So first of all, I always understand that they're really honouring God.
Yeah, that's it.
Do you know what I mean? And when I'm not saying I am God.
No.
It's like actually they're honouring God. No, what I mean is I honour the fact that if someone comes to me after a message and says, "Oh, that was so helpful. That was such a blessing." I'm so glad for you. I'm really, what was it that really helped you? And I get excited for them, but you know what? Inside, I'm going, how awesome are you, God? Because I know 100% that what they got was because you've worked in my life.
Yeah.
You've given me the revelation. You've given me an anointing and ability to share. You also, Lord, put things in my mouth that I wasn't even planning to share at times, and how good you are. And I don't say that all, and I don't use that fake, it wasn't me, and we have a favourite saying, when Stephen Furtick preached his first sermon.
Oh, I love this.
And he went up to
one of the elders.
One of the elders came to him after. So this is one of his, Stephen Furtick, who's a great Bible teacher. But one of his first sermons, which I imagine would have been good for a young man. You know what I mean? Would have been good for the elder came and said, that was really good.
He's like, that was good, Stephen. And Pastor Stephen's like, it was all God. And the elder turned around and started walking with it. Wasn't that good, Stephen?
Yeah, it was all
It was good.
Yeah,
It wasn't.
It was all God. Oh, it wasn't that good. So I don't try and sort of say, oh, it's only God, because, like, I understand what they're saying. They're not trying to, and that can be embarrassing or trying to put them down as if to say, I'm more spiritual than you by pointing to God. But I internally, 100%, and I don't bask in it and I don't sit in it, because that's dangerous.
Yeah.
Once I start looking, and especially if I start seeking it, because then you will say things and do things in order to get that response.
Yeah.
You start, and that's what it said. You start to do things, and if they don't notice, you got to make your phylactery a little bit bigger so that they do notice you. And Jesus said, I hate that attitude.
Yeah.
I really, it makes me mad that this attitude. So it's I don't want to start leaning into that. But nor do I want to go into false humility. It's learning what this looks like.
What's just like it's 30 seconds? What would you say false humility is? Just for
false humility is still having problems in the heart, but trying to act and put a framework around you that makes you say, I'm not anything.
Yeah.
But I'm craving it. But I'm trying to say, don't look at me when I want you to look at me. Do you know what I mean? Okay, and so don't look at me when it's like, oh, actually I'd get really annoyed if you don't look at me. That's what I've got to deal with, and not these showy, don't look at me. That's why I'm saying sometimes, actually I'm actually making it more about me by doing that. If I just let it go through to the keeper and just say, oh, thank you, that was really good, I actually just let it go to God. And so they love the elaborate greetings in the marketplace. They love having people go, oh, Rabbi. He said, but you're not to be called Rabbi, for you have one teacher and you're all brothers. And and call no one your father on earth, for you have one Father who's in heaven. These are a couple of phrases like, sorry. And you know what the Pharisee does? They grab these verses and, you're not allowed to call anyone father. Hey, person who, raised me and was responsible for my birth. But I can't call you father because, the Bible says I can't call you father. Or, I can't call you rabbi because what Jesus is saying, you look in the context of this, I don't think that's what he's trying to do. Make a new set of rules to replace an old set of rules. That would sort of go against the whole flow of what he's doing. He's saying, don't love these titles. Don't gravitate and take these titles as places of honor that become important to you. Just recognize, don't be needing. So, but if someone calls you a title and it represents the gifting and calling that's on your life, I don't say, oh, you're not allowed to do that.
No, exactly.
But what I'm not allowed to do is sort of take that title and make it mine, my identity and who I am, and crave it and require it and get mad when people don't use the right title or anything like that. So I think that's the heart of it. You're not, nor are you to be called teacher. Well, I'm in trouble. People say, pastor is a teacher. Don't call me that!
Yeah.
Shoot you down. Well, that would be sort of misunderstanding this whole concept. But what I'm for you have one teacher, the Christ. I think that's the essence of what I was saying is when anyone recognizes and honors the gift that I have, I recognize it is a gift. It is empowered and enabled by God, and He is actually what makes it. And not in a superficial it wasn't me, when I really, really love it is me. I've actually got to be very, very aware, you know what, it wasn't me. It wasn't me.
No. It's like, it's important to not hold on to what is rightfully God's.
That's
so it's like if someone says something, it's like what you're saying internally. I just redirect that. This is rightfully yours, God. Like they said that to me.
You are so good,
this is
God.
because of what you have done in me.
You've got to just be like, and to be honest, I think there's a part. It's really good. Often when God's worked and moved, and you've seen miracles or revelations or healings or people get saved and all those things, you sit back and just bask in the fact, God, how good you are, because we know, you and me know.
It was not me.
It was not me. And it's like this, I just want to just own this again. How good you are, God. Because you don't say, don't look at him. You use me and you allow me to be front and center. You allow me to speak the words for you. You allow me to be the one that lays my hands on. You fill me with a boldness and a passion that I feel I could rip the back off a chair and I could, go hard at the devil, and there's a power of God surges on me. The faith, I get a gift of faith. Nothing can stand in my way. You just feel $1 million. And you're allowed to be the one that speaks, and you're allowed to be the one that rebukes, and you're allowed to be, when it rebukes the devil. You're the one that allows to see God work. He lets me be front and center. He lets me be involved in it. He doesn't say, whoa, God's moving, quick. I need to humiliate. I need to humiliate you. I need to put you down. So people straight away recognize it's not him. It's not him. Do you know what I mean? And the only time that really, I would have been really tempted to do that with Moses. When Moses got annoyed, and it started to be about Moses. Yeah. And when Moses, strike the rock. Yeah. And God said, now, if you can go back, I won't go back and do the teaching now. Just checking. Just checking something. Where Moses struck the rock and water flowed out, and that was very significant. The rock represented Jesus. It represented God. You can go, Moses' song in Deuteronomy talks about the rock. The rock is our God. So when he struck a rock, it represented that striking God, and out of God came water. Yeah. And then they needed water again, and God told him, go and speak to the rock. Now, Moses might not have thought this through. He might not have been connecting the dots. But, I connect the dots. If Jesus is the rock, how many times does Jesus need to go to the cross and get struck in order to provide life?
Exactly.
Just once. Yeah. You don't need to put him on the cross every time.
Yeah.
That's good.
Right? So God's like, this time we're not going to strike him. We're just going to speak to him.
Yeah.
And you're going to call forth the life out of what has been done. Moses is not thinking like this at all. He's so annoyed that the people are giving it. So he's and he grabs it and he hits the rock twice.
Yep.
And water flows, and he's like, no. And then God rebukes him and says, you know what? Can't have this attitude. You're not going into the promised land. It was very significant. Yeah. But you know what? I'm always amazed that God let water flow. I would have just let him hit the rock.
Yeah. Yeah.
Leave him hanging.
Yeah.
Bang, bang.
Stick bounce back.
Okay, Mr. Amazing Miracle Worker. Let's see you bring water out of a rock. You can't bring water out of a rock.
Yeah.
But out of his anger, he was like doing it. And God let water flow because God is very gracious. And God let the water because that's what it was going. But then Moses himself lost something.
Yeah.
I'm amazed at how much God allows me to be used, even at times when I'm not in a good headspace. When my heart might be taking some of the glory for myself even, he will still use me and use me powerfully. You should never confuse that with the fact that God's happy with it.
Yeah, that's good.
Sometimes he's just meeting the needs of people because they're hungry and their faith is working, and he's being good and he's honoring the gift in you. But if you are dragging it to yourself or misusing it, it will come undone. And normally God will deal with you in the place. And if I don't allow him to deal with it, it'll become public eventually.
Yeah, that's it.
You know what I mean? He tries to deal with you in the quiet, but if I won't listen to the quiet, then it becomes shouted. I've known, it's a bit of a sad thing, but I've known of ministers that have been publicly exposed for stuff that they shouldn't have been doing, and it's just been terrible. And it's like, oh God, this is such a black eye for the body of Christ, and And then I've talked to ministers and said, you know what, that minister, I know, he says, I went and confronted him. I know others went and confronted him in private and said, God's told me, and this one minister said, I went and said, God has told me something's not right here. And the minister looked me back and said, no, everything's fine. There is no problem. And he refused to open up and refused to acknowledge. And he said he was being given an opportunity to get this right.
Yeah.
And then eventually it became a public opening. So that's sort of a sad thing. But what it says is, do not confuse the fact that God is using you, even if your heart's not right and things like that. Yeah. That's why I say God is actually quite happy to use us.
Yeah.
And he loves using us.
Yeah,
that's actually his desire. He doesn't sort of say, hey, okay, Josh, I want to do a whole lot of healings here. Get out of the way so I can do them. No. He says, Josh, front and center, I want you to lay hands on them. I want you to speak the word. I want these healings are going to come through you. In fact, if you don't do it, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm using you and I need you. I need you. It's like, you're like, God doesn't need me. Romans, it says, in order for people to get faith, they need the word. In order to hear the word, someone needs to speak. In order for someone to speak, someone needs to be sent. Yeah. Someone needs to go. Someone needs to be the voice that speaks that word.
Yeah, that's good.
So that they can get saved.
Yeah.
Right? And so he says, I'm going to use you.
Yeah.
So Josh, you're going to be the one. You're going to be front and center. You're going to be and your words are going to see people saved. He actually says, I'm going to put you front and center. And then, but he doesn't want you to say, I like this front and center. You know, oh no, then there's problems. Yeah. This is the issue. This is where they began to bring these things to themselves. He said, the greatest among you will be your servant. Whoever exalts himself will be humbled. Whoever humbles himself will be exalted. I think that captures the heart of what Jesus says. And I think if we want to please God, we've got to learn this heart of servant leadership.
Yeah.
Servant, where we lead through a heart of service, where we, do things and only God knows. Do things that only God knows. You know what I mean? And make decisions.
Like the time when I gave up.
Yeah. I always feel embarrassed. I'm like, I don't want to give examples here because then I lose my...
Yeah.
Okay.
Give an example for each other.
I'm going to give an example because, I was at a youth camp and they put out the cereals for breakfast. It was pretty basic youth camp. Boxes of cereals and some milk. And so, some good cereals and some bland, cheapy fill-in sort of one. And I realised, limited supply of the good. And then when that runs out, everybody will have to do it. And I'm rushing to get to the
front
into the line. So I'm not pushing my way in, but and then there's something in my heart that says, why don't you take a step back and let some others in? And so, okay, you know what? I'm going to let others get that cereal, and I'll just take a step back. And did it in a way that no one would never know. Until now, thank you.
Yeah,
there's your reward.
There's my reward. One of the reasons that stays in my mind is because a little bit later, when I was back in home church, we had a visiting minister, and he was praying, and it was someone who worked in the word of knowledge, and they were praying for me, and they said something to the effect of, God sees the things that you're doing that no one else sees, and that picture of what I did jumped straight in my head, and it was like God says, no one else saw it, but I did. No one else saw that, but I did.
That's good.
And now that everyone else knows, I'm not sure what happens to my reward for that. But
a good example.
But I'm giving an example because you need to have those things multiplied. Things where God sees, and that's enough.
Like common
yes,
place.
Totally.
Yeah, that's and you just as long as God sees.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily doing it. Hey God, look at me. It's just like me and God have got this thing going.
Yeah. That's good.
You know what I mean? He and I are the only ones that know some of the choices.
Like I get another opportunity to do something that only God will see.
Yeah, and it's like God,
that's good.
That God will appreciate. That God can now use you for.
And it's in a sense of what, God, I got actually a lot of pleasure out of taking that step back and seeing it happen.
That's good.
It was like I actually got a really good reward because it was just like I'm doing something that no one else knows about, but it's just one little thing I can do to be a blessing to people. And the fact that no one saw or knew actually made it special. It was like me and it's like me and God shared and it's a little thing, but you've got to multiply that over and over. There's things that you do, prayers that you pray, time that you give up, things that you sow, that people won't ever know about. And that's all right because it's not about people knowing, it's about me and God. And servant leadership where actually, you just do it because you want to honor God. And you just love his people and you just want him to get glorified and you just do whatever it takes. And for God to get glory, often you've got to press in and you've got to dig a little bit deeper. Like I want to find the gold of the word, then we've got to dig a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes you've got to do digging. And
what does it say in Proverbs? Or it's like
wisdom's not on the surface.
Yeah, wisdom is like seek wisdom like bury treasure.
Yeah, you go.
It's probably NLT, but I forget what it is. But
yeah, seek it. You got to do that, and so that's sort of that's the Jesus attitude, all right, and that's and if you ever find yourself needing this attention, that's a big warning. You know,
that's good.
It's anyway. So we're moving on. Verse 13. So now the first of the woes. So that was sort of his prelim. But woe to you! It's going down the wrong track. This is not ending well. This is going to be terrible. Experts in the law and you Pharisees, you hypocrites. So he's got another name for them now. That hypocrites. The word hypocrite.
So we've had a quick shout out to our Lee from Queensland who's joining us. He's giving a shout out to our Josh. Good to have you back.
Glad to be back, Lee.
Lee, what are you saying, mate? I thought I carried the helper role quite well last couple of weeks now.
I thought you did all right.
I was not. No Josh. Who can be a Josh?
You be Jay and I'll be Josh. I think we're good with that. I don't want to be you, mate. That's
okay. While you guys are just busy getting yourself sorted over there,
we're just getting some earthly rewards.
You'll enjoy this. The English word hypocrites comes from the Greek word hypocrites.
Great.
So guess where hypocrites come from?
Hypocritio.
From this word here.
Hypocrite.
So let's just to act as a hypocrite. So let's just look at what it is. To act under secrecy, to pretend.
Lee says Josh's fill-in doesn't cut it. He only tunes in for Josh.
Oh, Lee. My friend. I love you, Lee.
A lovely earthly reward for Josh.
What am I, chop liver? Okay. Later it quite. So this is word that developed into something that meant something more. So by the time it comes to Jesus' use, it's acquired the meaning to represent, act, or impersonate someone, as an actor would. It rose from the application of the word in the Attic Greek to persons in a play, and then to people generally who act a part or pretend to be what they are not, to represent oneself as to simulate, to distinguish oneself. In the New Testament, to pretend, feign. So it's like actors were hypocrites.
Well, Peter isn't that bad either. Hey, there's only one person left. He's obviously talking about Brooke when she filled in for the 2 weeks when we weren't.
So hypocrites broadly meant, it came from the word actors. But he's basically saying you're wearing a mask. You're pretending to be one thing, but
you false face.
Two-face.
Two-face.
You hypocrites, you keep locking people out of the kingdom of heaven, for you neither enter nor permit those trying to enter to go in. In other words, the way they were behaving was actually preventing people from getting the truth, the reality of it. Not a good thing. So that's number one. You lock people out.
Lee says, anyways, back to the word.
First thing is, if we get this wrong, we actually do stop people getting into the kingdom of God.
Good.
Not that, and that's what God's really intending. That's the purpose, is to get people into His kingdom and stuff like that. It's what's His priority and what we can do. We can get it wrong. Number two, woe to you experts in the law and you Pharisees, you hypocrites! You cross land and sea to make one convert, and when you get one, you make him twice as much a child of hell as yourselves. Wow, that's it just means you go out of your way to try and find someone that you can make like you, and that is just that. Then they become twice the hypocrite that you are. You don't want people. You don't want that to be your legacy. You do not want that on your gravestone.
No.
He made people twice as much a son of, well, not hell, child of. Or maybe it is hell. Child of hell as yourself. Okay, go to the next one. Woe to you blind guides. Okay, so he's got a new name. So experts in law and Pharisees. Now, woe to you blind guides who say, whoever swears by the temple is bound by nothing, but whoever swears by the gold of the temple is bound by the oath. This is a little bit like, what? With this, and again, culturally, this is something... Okay,
so what would you say? So would you jump to like an NLT or something here? Or?
Yeah, so you could do... Now, this one's probably a little bit more dangerous. I'm going to guess this is not words that I'm struggling with. I understand everything that's been said here. So this is not words.
Yeah.
This is like, why would you be even doing that?
Yeah,
so the danger is that I can't go to a translation that makes it clearer because it's already clear. It's not using phylacteries, which I don't understand.
Yeah.
It's using words that are swears by the temple, is bound by nothing. So they're making some sort of oath, but they do an oath by the temple. Now I'm just like, I don't get this because what does this even mean? So with this one, you might have to go to something that gives some background.
Okay.
All right, so I'll teach you where I go for here.
Yeah.
So first of all, you do your first step and you...
Also, who loves doing this loves this about Breakthrough Academy, that we get this sort of opportunities?
So good, I love it. We get to go every, what's the phrase? Leave no stone unturned.
Literally, we get to find out everything, find out the details, and I love that.
So if I'm going to go to my paraphrase of paraphrases, I would go to the Living Bible.
Okay.
Because that's probably as wide as it gets for me but I like Kenneth Taylor. He didn't get it all right, but he got a lot of it right. So Kenneth Taylor was the one who translated did the Living Bible translation. Okay, so let's see if he puts a little bit of understanding here. He says, "Blind guides, woe upon you, for your rule is that to swear by God's temple means nothing, but you can break that oath. But to swear by the gold in the temple is binding. Blind fools, which is greater than..." So it's okay. It makes it a little bit clearer.
Yeah.
I still don't understand why they would make...
Why they're doing that.
All right, so... and so what you've got there is it's probably not going to help me looking at...
What is the amplify?
Okay, you can try the amplify.
They'll say
everything.
But again, this is not... It's not. I'm not understanding it. It doesn't. It's just because I don't know why they're doing it. I don't know. If anyone swears by the sanctuary of the temple, it's nothing. But if anyone swears by the gold, he's a debtor. No, it doesn't help me at all.
No.
I'll try one more. Try the Passion Translation. See, you blind guides, great sorrow awaits you, for you teach that there's nothing binding when you swear by God's temple. But if we swear by the gold of the temple, you are bound by oath. All right. I'm not getting any help. So now I will go to two references that some people might not have access to, so you have to maybe download these or do a search. So I'm just telling where. So I'm going to go to the New English Translation notes, and all they do is give a more clearer translation. Doesn't help me. All right, so nothing there. Thanks, Net. Thanks, New English.
But is that normally a good place to go, the NET notes?
Sometimes, because it's mainly translation notes, but sometimes it'll go a bit wider and give cultural notes or reasons. They're giving reasons behind the translation, so that might help. So with the phylacteries, they might have done something there. We won't go and check. I do have another thing which I do find is helpful. The IVP, maybe you can't read it, so I'll read it out. The IVP, which is the company produces, Bible Background Commentary. This commentary was designed by someone to send to missionaries who would be out in the field trying to do Bible study back then it was written for when we didn't have Google and all the rest. And you couldn't take your library with you. You would be out in the field with a Bible, and he says, if I give you one commentary to help you with the stuff that you're just not going to know in the Bible, which is background cultural stuff.
Yeah, nice.
Stuff that's not obvious. So I'm trying to give you cultural background or how this fits into that, and that's what this. So I'm not trying. It's not interpreting. It's not trying to make you understand what is here. It's trying to help you with the parts that this doesn't make sense, and there's nowhere here. So all right. So it's So what verse were we up to?
That's
a 23, I reckon. No, we're in chapter 23. So it was 23:15, I reckon.
Maybe you have to go back to the...
Okay, here we go. I think verse 16 to 22. So some background. Jews were no longer allowed to pronounce the sacred name of God in this period. So you weren't allowed to say Yahweh.
Okay.
Because we don't even know how that's pronounced.
That's already the...
Yeah, so YHWH in English letters is the name of God from the 4 letters. But in Hebrew... they didn't give you. They only give you the capital letters. They don't give you any help as to how the pronunciation is. All right. So
no vowels.
My older brother is actually studying Hebrew as part of doing a theological. Shout out to my brother who's started studying he started history, ancient history. Learning Hebrew. He's now doing a theology masters or something like that. Who would have thought?
Nice.
Learning and growing, and he likes Hebrew. So I was talking about he's learning Hebrew, and he says baby sort of Hebrew has like little marks in it to sort of show you how to pronounce things. They added those on to help pronunciation. Like for my name Peter, P-T-R. We put the E's in there to help me know how to sort of.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily help.
There are no vowels.
That could be Petter. With Peter, they had no vowels, so they put little.
If you ever want a great song learning about this, go listen to the song YHWH by the Apologetics, which is a great. It's a parody of the YMCA song, but with some actually really good theological teaching in there as well.
Yeah, the Apologetics, YHWH, a great song, and it teaches all this in a song form. But basically, they had this word Yahweh, but they've refused to say it because. To say it, you could say it wrong.
They don't want to say it in vain.
They don't want to say it in vain, so they don't say it. Yeah. And therefore, over centuries, people don't know how to say it. All right. So, but now they have this name. So the best guess by people today is Yahweh. All right. It has been done as Jehovah, and in other times, but people probably say no. Yahweh is probably the thing. So they don't want to say Yahweh. All right. This is by swearing lesser oaths. Some people hope to avoid the consequences of swearing by God's name. If they could not keep their vow, if their oath turned out to be mistaken. So, as people swore or vowed by things related to God, instead of by God himself, more and more things became substitutes for the divine name, and thus became roundabout ways of seeming to swear by God, while hoping to buffer the consequences. So what they're saying is, when they swear by the temple, so rather than say, I swear by God, well, can't do that.
Yeah.
So we will. If I swear by the temple.
Yeah.
But what he's saying is that they got to a point where swearing by the temple meant less than swearing by the gold within the temple.
Yeah. So there's So this doesn't fully help me. But it helps me a bit. It helps me understand why they're swearing by things like swearing by the temple, swearing by the gold. All right, and then I won't do this one because this one will be long. My next step in was to go to a full commentary. For me, it would be the New International Commentary of the New Testament, and that will be a long.
So what are commentaries? They're just things where they discuss every verse.
They discuss every verse, and some commentaries,
a deep dive. Or
deep dive, yeah. This one you can see that they dive pretty deep into here.
I reckon it's 15, like 16, I reckon. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
nothing there.
So that's actually just the translation verse with some translation notes in it. Then you come down further. So anyway, it's a bit long and hard to follow through here. Okay, so I will just say, you got to dive in a little bit to get this, and you might have to go do some search and
it'll take some time.
Take a little bit of time. So some people are like, I've got no time for that. Well, that's all right. You will, you can. I'm not saying everyone. I will, because that's my heart. I will dive deep because that's what I love to do, and I will enjoy having multiple translations. I'm not asking everyone to be like me because. That would be a boring world, and it's not the giftings of God on everybody. Yeah. But I'm just trying to give you a bit of a clue if that is what you want to do and how you got to dive.
And even if that's not your natural way of learning, I think it's good to know how to do this. And I think we all, at some point, should be doing this. We should be trying to get the most out of the Bible, and this is a good way to get the most out of the Bible.
Especially when it's something that is like close to your heart.
Exactly. That's really true.
Then sometimes things it's like, that's not my natural inclination or gifting. But this is close to my heart, so I actually want to. So I'm gonna just discover this, find it.
Yeah, that's really good. I like that.
And most, except some of these, I've had to pay for these commentaries, but a lot of these ones here I haven't paid for. So I'll try one. Meyer, F.B. Meyer's Through the Bible. Again, just took a guess. All right. Okay, I'm just going to go back to it because I don't know where. they like we said with the seatbelt,
Yeah.
they start making rules.
Yeah.
Okay, so they start to define things. Some things, if you say it by this, there's a bit of an out. But if you say it by this, well, it's more serious. All right, so if you make a vow by the temple, and it doesn't happen, oh well, that's a shame.
Yeah.
But if you make a vow on the gold of the temple, oh, that's serious.
There's more weight to it.
So they sort of say, they sort of layer their
They made
vows
tiers for their different types of vows.
Yeah, and that just gets up Jesus' nose. He's like, seriously, you're making a vow, but you're already planning it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yes, I will, but it's like crossing. It's like, can I just say, it's like making a promise with your fingers crossed.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, what sort of promise is that? Because it's in some people's
Pinky
mind
promise.
that means it means it's not a real promise.
Yeah.
Because I'm saying it, but I don't have to be held to it. It's just nonsense. And it's can I say, okay, let's bring it in as if I was writing the Bible and making a modern paraphrase. It's like you make promises. But then you say the same promise with your fingers crossed as if that gets you out of it. Seriously, as if God who made your hands is going to be any less likely to follow, to make this serious than if you've got your fingers crossed. Come on. So
is the thing there that they're talking about, is that the fact that they put gold above the temple, or is it just the fact that they're making vows? They're too scared to put a vow on God's name because they don't want to mispronounce it, so now they're just making all these different things that they'll swear by but putting tears in it. What's he sort of getting at there? Is it those two specific ones or just the concept?
Now, let's without you knowing the background, you got a little bit of a guess, but we don't really know.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can work out just from what Jesus says what he's meaning. This is an example where sometimes I don't know, but I can get enough clues to get the gist.
Yeah.
Okay.
And really what you're aiming for is not to understand this 100%, but to actually get what Jesus is saying. It's more important to understand what he's meaning and then try and find, how would that apply in my life, than it is to fully understand. Sometimes understanding does give him clarity, and I'm not saying don't worry about it. He says, okay, so whoever swears by the gold of the temple is bound by the oath. All right, so it's like you're making blind fools. Which is greater, the gold or the temple that makes the gold sacred?
Yeah.
And whoever swears by the altar is bound by nothing. But if anyone swears by the gift on it, he's bound by the oath. You're blind. For which is greater, the gift or the altar that makes the gift sacred? So whoever swears by the altar swears by it and by everything on it. And whoever swears by the temple swears by it and the one who dwells in it. Whoever swears by heaven swears by the throne of God and the one who sits on it. All right? Now, he hasn't used the example of heaven.
Yeah.
They're swearing by heaven. But in each case, they're swearing by something that is tangible down here. But then they've put rules in place to say, if you swear by the altar, that's okay. But if you swear by the gift on the altar, that's a binding gift. That's a binding oath. And he says, whoever swears by heaven, swears by heaven, swears by the throne of God and the one who sits on it. Ultimately, it's like you can't separate these things and act as if
you're not doing it to God.
You're not doing it to God. If you make a vow, God hears.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Really, that's if you say something, God hears.
Yeah.
And Jesus is saying, you live your life as if you can manipulate God.
The system.
You can manipulate the system. Yeah, but if I do it this way, then I'm not guilty.
Yeah, that's good.
Always, like you said, always having that out.
Yeah, I can get it. But if I do it this way,
that's good.
But if I do it on a Wednesday, it doesn't count. And
I think there's a point where it's interesting that it's like, again, going back to what I was saying earlier in that passage about like their love of, it's like that even the things that they did consider to be more sacred were the gold and the gifts, not even the temple or the altar. It's like, I think they were like, not just that they were getting it wrong, that they were putting tears to things. So it's like the things that they were putting the most value on, God's like, no, you're getting
it
even the
upside
things
down.
that you're putting value on, you're putting it wrong.
That's a great point. He's saying even the way that you define these things show that you really don't get it.
Yeah.
You're putting more value on the thing, but not the heart, the core. And I think that's a great point that gets it. Jesus says, you don't get it, do you? It's the heart that really matters.
Yeah.
It's the core that matters. It's what's underneath that is really. That's what it filters. It filters from the core out, not from the out. You love the show. You love what's on the outside. You love the phylacteries. You love the tassels. You love the honor. You love the special places. God's not. That's not him. He's looking at the other side. He's looking at the inside, the part of the, and he said it's even represented by the fact that you put the importance on the outside, the gold, but the temple itself, which gives the gold the value. You say the sacrifice, but isn't it the fact that there's an altar there that makes the lamb becomes a sacrifice because it's put on the altar.
Yeah. It
becomes important because of where it is. But you are focused on what people can see and do and act. And so I think that's a great. We're catching something about his attitude. He really, really is not moved by what's on the outside, but what's on the inside. And what on the outside, if it's an expression of the inside, then that's what's important. You know what I mean?
That's good.
Whoever swears by heaven swears by the throne. Woe to you, experts in the law and Pharisees, hypocrite! You give a tenth of a mint, dill and cumin, and mint and dill and cumin. Imagine just little spices. And yet you neglect what is more important in the law: justice, mercy, faithfulness. You should have done these things. In other words, tithing's not a problem.
Yeah.
But without neglecting the others, you got to cover the main things without doing it. And that's an important thing for some would say, okay, Jesus is concerned with in the heart, so it doesn't matter what happens on the outside.
No.
All right? Because that can be, okay, if he's only concerned with what's on the heart, he doesn't care what's on the outside. So, does Jesus care about what you wear? Question without notice. Is Jesus concerned with what you wear?
Comment below your answers as well. We'd love to hear what you guys are thinking.
Is Jesus concerned with the hairstyle that you have, whether you get it coloured or not?
I'm getting this cut.
Natural. All natural, people. Is Jesus, is Jesus concerned if you get a tattoo? Yeah. Is Jesus concerned with if you wear chains, hanging from different parts of your body? Okay, because we've just said he's concerned with the heart.
Yeah.
He's not concerned with the outside.
Yeah.
Or did I say that?
No, it says do that, but not without neglecting.
Yeah.
Yeah. What does that look like? So we say, okay, Jesus is concerned with the heart, therefore he is not concerned with the outside. No. What does it? Would it mean that more that? I'm only concerned with what's on the outside as a reflection of what's happening on the inside.
Yeah, that's it. That's probably I think that's probably what I'm thinking is okay, I've had this conversation with people and stuff because, okay, we don't wear suits to church.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's some people are oh, how dare you not putting your best before God? I'm like, no. I hate wearing suits. I find them uncomfortable and I find them frustrating. And if I'm wearing a suit, I'm spending the whole time thinking about how quickly I can get out of a suit. Okay? Yeah. If I was to wear a suit, I would, in my mind, it'd be almost a bit pharisaical because I'd be more interested in showing everyone else that I'm doing the right thing. If I want to do my best before God, I'd find one of my favorite t-shirts and one of my favorite shirts. I'd wear it over like this. Yeah. I'd wear a pair of jeans or my favorite pair of chinos sort of thing. And I would wear that because for me, that is me giving my best to God. But my best doesn't look the same as what other people would consider their best. So it's for me, my best will look like this. So I'm going to wear, this is how I honor God. Is this is what I love. This is my favorite. This is what I do. So I'm going to take my best and give it to you in that sense, Yeah. Does that make sense? There's a sense what's happening on the outside can be a reflection of the inside. It should be the reflection of the outside. But if I have no thought for the outside, it can be I don't care how I'm representing and I don't care what people think about God. No. That's also not very healthy because it's okay, I've got to be aware that, you wear different clothes at different places in your family. Exactly. I don't go to church in my pajamas. No, exactly. Right? There's nothing wrong with pajamas, but they're suitable from one place and they're not suitable for others. And that's just sort of common sense, but sometimes you've got to... Common sense is not so common. You've got to
God is concerned, it starts with the heart, and then it outworks. And that's why you often, if it works really well, and if it's working properly, you see someone who is doing something on the outside, maybe harming themselves or wearing clothes that are very dishonorable to themselves and to their life, and they get saved, and God begins to work. And guess what happens? They begin to wear different clothes, or they begin to change their appearance. They begin, I'll give an example. Someone might have a hairstyle which is sort of covering their eyes and stuff like that. And you think, that's just a trend. But it can also be a sense of...
They can be doing it for the reason of...
Yeah, something's broken on the inside, and I'm expressing it on the outside. And then changes, and then it just changes. So we could have a rule, no hairstyle this way, but what you want better is work from the inside and let it come out. But it doesn't work backwards, and you can say, well, as long as I'm right on the inside, it doesn't matter what I'm doing on the outside, because what you're doing on the outside is the only way I can know what's happening on the inside.
I just had this thought before. I sort of imagine Jesus, when he's yelling at this, I don't know how this verse ends. He might say something similar to this, but it's like he'd go and it's like, why would you do this? And it's like, I kind of imagine the Pharisees being like, oh, right, okay, so we will put the altar first, and we won't care about the gold. It's like, no. And it's like Jesus is saying, he's like, it'd be like the Pharisees are saying, it's like, Jesus, give us a set of rules. And he's like, I don't want to give you a set of rules, because if I'm giving you a set of rules, it means you're trying to do the wrong thing, and I'm trying to stop you. He's like, I want you to get the heart so you can do the right thing. And it's like, that's the key. The heart means it'll flow out, you doing the right thing out here. You'll do... The outward will become right if you're doing the right thing in the heart. It's like people who are constantly looking to create rules, It's like, I think in terms of things like sport, which is why my world, it's like if a coach is bringing in a new system or a new way of playing, often he'll have to start by setting up a bunch of rules, okay? Yeah. We're gonna be more aggressive, so we'll always... When we get a kick in out of behind, we're going to kick in down the middle because we're going to be aggressive. So we'll set a rule. He's not saying that that's the goal is to kick in down the middle. He's saying the heart is that we want to be aggressive and be more attacking offense. Eventually, he wants to be able to remove that rule because he wants to be able to say, just be aggressive and do whatever will be the best to do that. But sometimes at the start, you have to make a rule to implement something new and go against. But the goal is not to follow the rule. The goal is to get the heart right. So you can then... look at I was saying like music. The great musicians, they break all the rules. I was watching a video last night. Billy Joel, who one of his songs just broke every rule about what music should be and sticking within a key and just played every no note followed anything. But why did he do it? Because he learned the heart of music enough and knew music well enough that he could break the rules to get. Because he knew what he was doing, sort of thing,
Yeah, it's important that it can get the heart of it and then let that flow out. But you've got to let it flow out. There's you can't. I can't know what's in your heart until I see what's coming. But it's got to be from the heart. So blind guides, you strain out a gnat, yet swallow a camel. You focus on the wrong things and miss the bigger pictures, and that's never happened in churches ever. We get caught up in something and forget the bigger pictures of God's good justice and grace and reaching the world and all the other things.
Churches would never do such a thing.
Woe to you experts in the law and Pharisees, hypocrites! You clean the outside of the cup and the dish, but inside they are full of greed and self-indulgence.
I like you sort of... we're going to break the metaphor from it. It's like you clean the outside of the cup, but inside they're full of greed and self-indulgence. Because we couldn't really think of a metaphor that kept this working, so we're going to break it for a second.
But full of dirt. Well, listen, I'll just name it.
I'll just name
greed, self-indulgence. They're things that upset Jesus. Okay, greed, self-indulgence. Blind Pharisee, first clean the inside of the cup so the outside may become clean too. So see that it doesn't say it doesn't matter what's on the outside. It's like start here and then the outside will reflect that as well. All right, so it's got to. That's why simple terms. Our team has a dress code. Oh, aren't you concerned with what's in the heart? Yes, we are. But that's got to be reflected on the outside. And so we just give some guide and help people understand what that looks like. Matthew 23:27. Woe to you experts in the law and you Pharisees, hypocrites. You're like whitewashed tombs that look beautiful on the outside, but inside are full of the bones of the dead and everything unclean. That's lovely saying. You'd be like a tomb. It's so clean on the outside. If you go inside,
You're dead.
Yeah, there's a dead man.
There's a dead, decaying body in there. And then this is long run up. This is what we're actually getting to when I turn to this passage. Not quite. We're almost there. But it's based on this. In the same way, on the outside you look righteous to people, but inside you are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness. Again, hypocrisy and lawlessness. He's gone, just losing the metaphor and just sort of going with these are so greed. What was it? Greed and self-indulgence, and now we have hypocrisy and lawlessness. It's interesting. He says these are lawlessness means not following the law.
Yeah.
And so people say Jesus wasn't concerned with the law. He said, your biggest problem is you're hypocrites and you don't truly follow the law. They followed the law.
Yeah.
That was what they were known for. They were they were measuring their mint.
If there's one thing I couldn't call the Pharisees wrong on,
was lawless.
It's that they were lawless.
Yeah, you couldn't say, well, we're not lawless. We actually are hyper law. No. He's saying you're lawless because you're not following the rules as intended and what God had done. People say, in Jesus, in grace, there is no law. No, it's a different law. It's the law of grace. It's the rules of grace. There are still requirements.
Still law.
Yeah, but it's the boundaries and things are still there. But it's not the Old Testament, different thing. Woe to you experts in the law and Pharisees, you build tombs. Now, here it is. You build tombs for the prophets and decorate the graves of the righteous. And you say, oh, if we'd lived in the days of our ancestors, we would not have participated with them in shedding the blood of the prophets. All right, so we'll just guess because it's sort of obvious. Back in the day, the prophets were not always appreciated. Some of the prophets died. Who would have thought it?
Prophets were appreciated when they prophesied the right thing.
Yeah. And
true prophets often didn't.
Yeah, and you go.
They love Jeremiah.
You look at prophets like Jeremiah, and he said,
they hated his words.
Well, and yeah, people. He said, you've got people there telling you what you want to hear.
Yeah.
He said, I'm here to tell you what God says.
Yeah.
All right, and they didn't want what God says, and they were mad with him, and they got upset with him. They threw him down in a well, and different prophets got. If you want to know how what sort of things people enjoyed, using that term, enjoyed because they were following God. It says, this is from Hebrews chapter 11, a bit of a sort of an overview of the type of people. It says, and others experienced mockings, scourgings, chains, imprisonment. They were stoned, they were sawn in two, they were tempted. They were
not like the magician where they're put back together though.
No, they were sawn in two. They were tempted, they were put to death with the sword, they went about in sheepskins and goatskins, being destitute, afflicted, ill-treated. They got harshly treated at times. But he said, but they're saying our ancestors actually got it wrong.
Yeah.
They might have killed the prophets, but then we recognized our mistake and we built a tomb to honor them. So we will recognize the prophets by building a tomb and by a memorial to say, these guys, we really do honor them. We do love them. They're amazing.
Yeah.
Jesus says, actually, you say, oh, if we lived in the days of our ancestors, we wouldn't have participated with them in shedding the blood of the prophets. He said, by saying this, you actually say something against yourself, because you actually called them your ancestors. That you are descendants of those who murdered the prophets. You've actually connected yourselves to them. You sort of said, I wouldn't have done what my ancestors did. You said, your ancestors.
Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. You actually are connected to them. And fill up then the measure of your ancestors. What does that mean? We're going to find a paraphrase will help here. You are following in their steps, filling up the full measure of the evil.
Go. I like what NLT says. Go ahead and finish what your ancestors started.
Yeah. You're actually today demonstrating that you're of the same ilk.
Yeah.
But you don't even recognize it. And I recognize in this is where we came to, the Jesus in the Bible is easier to live with than the Jesus sometimes in today, working amongst us.
Yeah, that's good.
And sometimes we say, oh, they were terrible back then. You know, the first disciples were a bit blind. Well, the fact that I call them disciples.
Yeah.
Well, they were me. I'm connected with them. I had the same, so I can have that same connection. You know, I'm not saying I'm a Pharisee and, you know, whatever, but I'm just saying what happened was that they looked back and they said, we would never make that mistake. We would never do what they did. Jesus said, ignore that and think about, what are you doing today? That's more a proof of what you would, how you would.
Yeah, that's good.
He said, I'm here right amongst you and you hate me. I reckon one of the best examples that I know of is a prophet and an amazing man of God called Smith Wigglesworth. If you want to do yourself a favour, find a biography and read about the life of Smith Wigglesworth. There's a few out there. They're exhilarating. They're amazing. Hearing the stories about this man of God. He was not in ministry till later in years. He was a plumber. He was a harsh, rough man. You know, in the sense of not refined, not cultured. He was a loving man. I'm not saying he was rough now. I'm saying, but he was not brought up through private schools or he spoke using Cockney sort of language, and he
wasn't royalty.
No, and he didn't come into the things until later, but when he did get hold of God, he was passionate. He went all in, and he was bold. He would do things that would cause other people to get embarrassed. He came to Australia, and he was in Sydney, and the pastor there said, "I'll take you out for lunch." As a special, you know, we've got the man of God here in Australia, we're doing great meetings. So he took him to a very fancy restaurant in Sydney, and he thought this will be, you know, my way of honouring him. And he said, so this pastor is, you know, sitting there, and they're in a very fancy restaurant, and suddenly Smith Wigglesworth is looking around, is a bit distracted, and he gets his cup and he goes ding 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 ding, ding, gets everyone's attention, and he goes, I've been noticing that no one has been saying grace before they eat.
Everybody stop what you're doing.
Yeah. He said, pigs eat without saying grace.
Oh.
So I will say grace for everybody.
Nice.
So he said grace for the room and then sat down. And the pastor said I wanted to get under the table. And I was so embarrassed.
Not my church.
So I read stories about Smith Wigglesworth. He's amazing. In the story.
Story, yeah.
Because I read about his boldness and people getting healed and people getting set free and in doing really courageous things and bold things. And, you know, there was a story after that, people got saved because, you know, the pastor's like, I was embarrassed, but suddenly people recognize him as a man of God and they come and suddenly he's leading them to the Lord and ministering to them. It's like, you know, maybe there's two sides to this boldness. Do you know what I mean? You know, you're bold in one way, but I often think I love the stories of Smith Wigglesworth. Would I love the Smith today? All right? Be very careful about building memorials to situations and trying to pretend that you would handle it differently. We think Jesus is amazing.
Yeah, that's good.
He's just, and we love him. But look at the things he was saying. Look at the things he was confronting.
He was not beating around the bush. He
wasn't out to make friends.
No.
You know?
No. And now but he wasn't an angry. You've got to be very careful. You can just become an angry preacher. And I'm not saying he was angry, but he was. And I want to dive in and say, what was it that really upset you, Jesus? What was moving you? What worked in you? What was it stirred you up? Because you know what? I don't want to have a memorial Jesus.
Yeah.
But realize that the people at the time found him very difficult. You know, there was that, you know, I think we've talked about it in the Bible school where in John chapter 6, verse 66, actually, we'll go there. I'll just refer to it. You know, the preacher's 666 verse.
Yeah.
After this, many of his disciples quit following him, that's Jesus, and did not accompany him any longer.
Yeah.
He said such things that so upset them that many of his disciples said, we can't handle this, and left. That's the sort of Jesus.
Yeah.
That could say things that could really upset you, really annoy you, really expose you. If you love the hypocritical sort of life, you will find, hopefully, this teaching very annoying.
Yeah, that's it.
If you're like, I don't want this. I don't. If my teaching today has made you uncomfortable,
Yeah.
you need to lean in.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
You know what
That's
I mean?
good.
No one's getting any license to do anything here.
It's just all I'm doing actually is just echoing Jesus. And if you're finding that is really agitating you, well, lean in, because you don't want to be someone that likes Jesus from a distance.
Yeah.
And builds him a nice memorial tomb. And says he's amazing.
You don't want to
Back
be someone
there.
who likes cheese. Maybe one of the things about the Pharisees and what didn't make them hypocrites was that they loved Jesus when it came to, they loved to use Jesus and the harshness of the Bible and the harshness of the law to cut others down.
Yeah.
So maybe you're like, oh, this couldn't be me because I love the strictness, because you love to go and tell others how they're doing everything wrong, and you love to go and tell someone else how their decisions aren't Christ-like and how they're not really a follower of Jesus and they're doing this, and you like to tell everyone else they're wrong. No. That means it probably is for you. That's not, if you're saying, oh, I'm fine with this Jesus because I
like to be like this.
I like to be like this Jesus. No. You need to have a conversation with this Jesus about you, not others. Are you willing to receive what you're giving out to others? If you're someone who loves to cut others down about Jesus, or cut others down for what they're doing wrong, are you willing to receive the same, to a point where you'd be willing to change and stop doing that and change your heart completely? I love that you look at some of the people who are in here, the disciples, like this is what they'd been taught. The disciples, this is what they'd been taught, was by the Pharisees,
Yeah.
Like up until now, that was what they knew. And then they've gone and they've connected with Jesus, and then they've just completely changed every thought and every filter and every way of life that they've known, because it's what Jesus said. So they're just going to flip it around. Are you willing to take that same step of faith and be like, well, this is what I enjoy and this is what I do, but if it's not what Jesus says, then I'm going to completely flip everything on its head.
Yeah.
Look at the things I think when you sort of said, I like to go and point out to people what's, I love this sort of Jesus. I love being Matthew 23 Jesus.
Yeah.
And it says, you give a tenth of men, you neglect what is more important in the law. And if you love pointing out people's faults, he said, well, look at what Jesus says is what you should be leaning into. Justice, mercy, faithfulness.
Yeah, that's good.
That's not like you should be following it more accurately. It's like we should be getting the heart of God, the mercy of God, the loyalty of God.
Good.
These are the things that we should be championing. If people know us, are they impressed by our strictness or are they impressed by our mercy?
Yeah, that's really good.
If they know you, are they impressed by your ability to toe the line and to be exact? Or do they like the fact that you show great faithfulness and loyalty, and you are passionate and about bringing justice to those around you, and making sure people are treated fairly and legally and right and honest, and honoured and things like that. If people think about you and say you're a good rule follower, that's not what Jesus wants. He says, I want people to think you're full of justice, you're full of mercy, you're so loyal. So we're going to leave it there, but because really that last, it came down to, you build tombs for the prophets, decorate the graves of the righteous, but what Jesus came and said, go on, you're just filling up, you just continue doing it. That's for reason of completeness. You snakes, you offspring of vipers, how will you escape being condemned to hell? For this reason I'm sending you prophets and wise men and experts in the law, some of whom you will kill and crucify, and some you will flog in your synagogues and pursue from town to town. So that on you will come all the righteous blood shed on earth, from the blood of that righteous Abel to the blood of Zechariah, son of Bechariah, whom you murdered between the temple and the altar. I tell you the truth, this generation will be held responsible for all these things. It's just just like, wow. But what I want us to do is to carry the fact that, you know what? Jesus was really passionate about it being from the heart and being genuine.
Inside out. Yeah.
Inside out. He wanted it to work on the inside and work out. That's what he was looking for. And the whole that they had built a life that was just totally back to front. And he was not happy with that. And so did this make him mad and sad? Probably a bit of a combination of both.
Yeah.
Seemed to be pretty mad. And it made him sad, I think, because... but you can say, well, what would make him glad? What's our response to this? How can we... Well,
if you go back up, is it 23, I think?
Yeah.
Where it says... You know? What about, you know, putting value on the things that he says are important in the Lord? Justice, mercy, faithfulness, you know?
Yeah.
If you want to know what makes God glad, I'm going to guess putting value on those things.
Yeah. Yeah, so why don't you just think about, God, how can I do things how can I build these things into my life today and not let anyone else know?
Yeah, that's good.
Not go out of my way to...
It's interesting with this that, like what we were saying before about things that are rightfully God's, these are things that God has done freely for you. So you don't gatekeep that.
Yeah.
That flows now through you to others. So this wasn't like... and this doesn't fit with the Pharisees because they weren't doing that.
Yeah.
But like these are the things that God loves. This is what He has done for us. This is what He values.
Yeah.
And it's these things that He's done for us. Let that flow through us and how we live inside out.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Let's take these things which have been particularly... That's what God has done for me.
Yeah.
And now let them work out through me. And let me prioritize those things. Let me become focused on those. Let me become... really, let's see how I can get those things. Why don't we just take one aspect and you say, okay, Jesus, take one thing that Jesus has done for you. All right, just think about something that you think, I really appreciate the way Jesus has given me this. All right, just bring something to your own mind, bring it to your own heart. Think about what has Jesus done for you, and then say, Jesus, how can I bring that to someone else today? How can I bring that without trying to push myself and get any recognition for it, without having to be recognized? I just want you to get the joy of seeing me take what you've done for me and let it outwork today. Lord, can I just do that? Can I just be a blessing to someone? Can I show them mercy? Can I show them some, when it says justice, can I try and fix something has been, someone's had something wrong done to them? Can I try and fix that? Can I bring them, some sense of, restoration or peace? Can I bring some area of mercy and show someone love? Can I, express some sort of way of serving you loyally and faithfully? Just do something that represents what you've done for me, Lord. Because they're the things that really, that's what gets you excited. Hallelujah. So, Father, I thank you. We just praise you and thank you for what you've done for us. I thank you, Holy Spirit, that you take these words and Lord, you'll build them. Lord, something will just stir in people's hearts, Father, towards what Jesus really, what he's really about. His integrity is from the inside out. Lord, I thank you that we would be able to represent that and reflect that. Yeah. And Lord, just to take the good things you've done for us and just be that. I thank you, Father. If people could, we think of Dr. Savelle. Lord, one thing people will say, he was real.
Yeah, that's good.
He was real. There was no layers to him of fakeness. There was no, Lord, it was what you saw was what he was. And I thank you for that, Lord. And I want that to be my testimony. That people would recognize everything they see is just a reflection of the things you've done for me. And Lord, the mercy you've shown me, I would show others. The loyalty that you've given to me, I would be able to bring down. The justice, the things that you've made right in my life, then Lord, I can help others. Father, I thank you that we can be a reflection of that. And Father, bring you great glory in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Well, thank you for joining us today. I don't know about you, but I say this every week, but I love that. I feel like we're learning. I've really enjoyed this series. It's learning so much about Jesus and the real Jesus.
Yeah.
And, it's like every time we do it, I just come away more and more just amazed at what he does and what he has planned for us and the desires he has for our lives. And I've really enjoyed it. As Pastor said then, Dr. Seville, the apostle of Breakthrough, who passed away earlier this week, he's a living example of not being this, someone who was not a hypocrite, someone who, what he said, he lived 10 times more, What he preached, he lived 100 times stronger.
There'll be things that we'll just never know.
We'll just never know until heaven that we'll find out what he did.
Yeah.
And as I said, Brother Jerry is our apostle here at Breakthrough. We are at Heritage of Faith Church, and Brother Dr. Jerry Seville, he was the head and the founder of Heritage of Faith over in Crowley, Texas.
Yeah.
And as that we are going to be spending Sunday, we will be doing a tribute service and honoring the legacy that Dr. Seville has left behind, and that what we can do to take on that legacy and to go forth with what he shared and the teachings that he left and the life he left behind, how we can go and continue on with that legacy. So we encourage you, if there's one Sunday you want to be in the room, I encourage you, be there this Sunday. It's going to be fantastic.
We want to, you know what I want, the picture I have for Sunday is that we take the baton and run.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that.
We're taking what Brother Jerry, his whole passion, he's just got, and we're taking that and we're running and we're taking another step. So I'm expecting and I'm believing, putting my faith out that there's going to be a real move of God on Sunday, because that's what Brother Jerry was preaching. That's what he was looking for. That we would have a powerful move of God. Well, let's see that on Sunday as we move forward with this.
And as we say, if you can't be in the building, be online. If you can't watch this live online, watch it afterwards. It's going to be a great service. That'll be Sunday at 10 a.m. And then be back next Wednesday night. We have life groups.
Yes,
next Wednesday night is life groups. If you don't know what a life group is, it is a place where we can actually learn to live out these things that we're learning. It's a place where you join together with other people who are just wanting to become more like Jesus. It is a great place to do that. Check out the website www.breakthrough.org.au to find out about life groups. And then next Friday, be back here for Academy. We've still got some more exciting things happening in Academy in the very near future.
Yeah.
We're announcing, we're not sure whether it'll be next Friday or one of the upcoming Fridays, but we've got some really exciting things that are happening. So stay tuned for that. But on behalf of myself, Pastor Peter, and Josh, thank you so much for joining us.
See you,
Bless you guys, and we'll see you next Sunday. Bye for now.